Brenda Hollingsworth with us from Auger Hollingsworth, answering your questions about anything to do with personal injury. And we're talking today about excuses that insurance companies make, but actually got a question from Dan online who says, he's on the phone. We're going to get, sorry, I thought he was online. We'll get him on the phone right now. Good morning, Dan.
Hi.
Hello. Okay, what's your question for Brenda?
Hi, I'm just wondering if I'm driving down the highway and I got insurance in my car and someone else hits me with another car and they don't have insurance, am I covered?
The answer is most of the time, yes.
Okay.
So you have something on your insurance called the Family Protection Endorsement, and you also have uninsured motorist protection.
Okay.
So between the two of those, they should bring you up to whatever your liability coverage is. So if you have $1 million liability coverage on your car, that's what you should get. So if you find out that the other driver doesn't have insurance, the first thing you should do is let your insurance company know.
Okay.
Yeah, put them on notice. If you have serious injuries, it would be something to get a lawyer for, because it can be tricky and there are some technicalities. If it's not that serious and you're going alone, just make sure your insurance company knows that you know that they have to pay.
Okay, but are all policies include that? Or is there...
all policies include the uninsured motorist, but that's only $200,000. The family protection endorsement, like 95% of Ontarians have it, a very high percentage.
Okay.
The chance of not having it's pretty slim.
Worth a look at your policy, though, Dan. So
Yes.
Appreciate the phone call there. I want to get to this situation that has happened with Bruce Jenner allegedly rear-ending someone on the Pacific Coast Highway in California, and that allegedly resulted in them going into head-on traffic. There was a fatality, and this is an absolutely tragic story, but this is what we're talking about, these tragic stories that happen. Now, police want to know, or may want to be grabbing his phone. There's footage of it. It's just awful. Want to see if he was texting. And I read in an article that this is actually difficult to prove.
Yeah, texting is a lot more difficult to prove than being on the phone.
Okay.
Getting phone records is relatively easy in Ontario anyway, and you can usually tell when the call started, how long the call lasted.
Okay.
So we have pretty good indication if someone's on the phone. And, if there's a long gap and then the first call is 911, they probably weren't on the phone and they called after the accident.
So for texting, would you take a look at prior behavior? Leading up to the time of?
Usually you would get the month of text, like your statement. And, whether or not you're entitled to texts other than sort of in the 10 minutes surrounding the accident, hard to say, hasn't really been tested.
Right.
But the difficulty is it doesn't, as you and I were talking about, it doesn't necessarily show if you were reading.
Okay.
Right? So if you send a text, it may show, but if you're reading a text, it may not show.
The other thing it wouldn't show is whether or not you were in the middle of typing one.
That's right.
Without sending it, you were in the middle. I mean, that's typically what I think would happen, right, when someone is in an accident. It's either that or you are reading that text. It's hard to say.
Right.
You said to me as well that people will often say, I know they were texting when they were in a collision.
Right. So my clients will come to me and say they were looking down, they were clearly looking at their phone.
Okay.
And most of the time we can't prove that, quite frankly. But regardless of the texting, if they hit you in a way they're not supposed to, the fact that they're texting doesn't actually make your case better.
Okay.
It may influence a jury, right? If they knew not only did he T-bone you, but he was texting. Right now we're kind of anti-texting and driving, so a jury might be influenced by that.
Okay.
But if we can't prove that they were on the phone or that they were texting, it doesn't really hurt your case the way you think it might.
One thing I do not need to prove at all is that I know the first phone call for Bruce Jenner was to his lawyer immediately. When you're in that kind of situation, and at that profile, I'm sure that's the first person he called to get some help after, obviously, emergency services. So
right, yeah.
There you go. If you're in that kind of situation, that's what you're here for.
Yes, for sure.
Just at least advice to start things off as well. Auger Hollingsworth, the spot to go. Thank you very much.